The Waspi women are to take legal action over Labour's refusal to give compensation. I'm going to read into this more from the iPaper, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from the iPaper with the headline that the Waspi women are to take legal action over Labour's refusal to give compensation. So campaigners are confident that their case can be won in court as they hand ministers a 14-day deadline to think again. Interesting. So, for those who've been following the channel for a while, you know that one of the things that the Labour Party, for a good while before they came into power, for a long period, they have always stood by and they have supported the Waspi women. They have said that they would help them, they would get them the compensation they would need, they would help them bring an end to the chaos they come through. Now, for those who don't know the situation around the Waspi women, this is regarding the change to the changes to the state pension age for women several decades ago, where they changed it in such a dramatic way that many women missed out on their pensions as a direct result of the massive change in the age gap. The way they did it was just, in my opinion, was shambolic. It was absolutely shambolic by the government at the time to do so. Ever since then, these women have been fighting for that compensation. Now, whether rightly or wrongly, there have been some people who have acclaimed that many of them have been paid back, or some of them are simply just trying to take advantage of the system. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't believe that to be the case. There may be some who are disingenuous, but it's really just a case of an individual's case-by-case basis that they need to look at around on that as well. But what I will say is that let's be very, very clear about this. Labour have been very, very supportive of the Waspi women, very, very supportive of their campaign, and even the Prime Minister, who was the opposition leader, has even had photos of him standing in support of the Waspi women. Now, you can argue all you want about they didn't put this in the manifesto, they didn't make it a manifesto commitment when they were doing their election campaign and whatnot. Yeah, you're right, they didn't put that as a manifesto commitment, but the fact that they have been standing by and supporting the Waspi women, bigging them up, talking about how they would bring them justice and whatnot, to now be in government and literally not do that is seen in the eyes of the public as an act of betrayal. And that is how it is perceived. You don't have to agree with the Waspi women. You have to agree with the campaign. You don't have to agree with them. But considering your political party has been standing by them and supporting them for quite a long time, and to come into power after a long period out in isolation, and now all of a sudden you've just ignored them because now you're in power, paints a very, very bleak, doesn't paint a very good picture of Labour, isn't it? So, how do I think this legal action is going to go? I don't honestly know if this is going to work or not. They say they're confident of this case, but the thing is does the government have enough evidence to combat this legal action? That is the question. Do they have enough on their side to say we have that enough has been given to the Waspi women? And honestly, the answer is I just don't know. If you want my personal opinion, I just don't know on this. But it is going to be an interesting case to say the least. Now, personally, I understand that many people do not want us throwing out cash and whatnot. Like, I know that many people are frustrated with the amount of money that we've given out to certain compensation schemes, like the post office scandal, the Horizon scandal, the Grenfell situation, the blood scandal, the infected blood scandal, as well, the compensation that was been done for them, and the post office scandal. And I think that they were good that their compensation had been allocated for them, so that over the next 10 years or whatever it may be, they will get their compensation and they can finally be get that kind of put to bed to a certain extent. But this is obviously something that they for some reason they just didn't put in the same bracket as the Waspi women. And I remember at the time when the budget was called, there was no mention of the Waspi women, and that was something that was a lot of people was like going, why weren't they mentioned? And you ask why have they been ignored here? It's not very good, is it? Anyways, let's have a read, guys. So, the Waspi women will take legal action against the government unless Labour ministers change their mind and offer them compensation over changes to the state pension age. So, the Women Against State Pension Inequality, Waspi, campaign has written to the government to tell ministers that they will be taken to the High Court if they do not think again on compensation payments. The Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall and the Department of Work and Pensions, DWP, have been given a 14-day deadline to back down, or the Waspi campaign lawyers will launch judicial review processes. The group has also launched a crowdfunding campaign urging their supporters to help to raise £75,000 needed for a High Court case. Kendall sparked outrage among Waspi activists in December after she announced that a compensation scheme would not be a fair or proportionate use of taxpayer money, which kind of spits in the face of, well, you can't say that. You're saying that about Waspi women. Well, you wouldn't say that about the post office scandal or the infected blood scandal. Like, this is just as much a scandal for many of these women, just as much as these other things. Yes, people have died as a direct result of the infected blood scandal. That's true. Some people's lives have been completely destroyed some people's lives have been completely destroyed as a direct result of the post office scandal, and the same as and even some Waspi women have lost out on so much as a direct result of these actions. So I don't think that's right to say such a thing. The Waspi women have been pushed for at least £10,000 each for the 3.6 million 1950s born women who expected their state pension age at 60 but had to wait another 5 or 6 years. It followed a 2024 report by the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman, the PHSO, which found that the DWP was guilty of Malay mismanagement for failure to properly notify women of the changes. So Keir Starmer's government said it had accepted that there had indeed been mismanned administration, but dismissed the PHSO's compensation recommendation. Waspi Women campaign chair Angela Maiden accused Labour of gaslighting the 1950s born women and said she was confident the case could be won in court. We are saying that the reasons that they, the government, are not following the Ombudsman recommendations are unsound and unlawful, Madden had told the iPaper. It's definitely morally wrong, but I think it's illegally wrong as well, said the veteran campaigner. The Waspi Group's lawyers of Binman's LLP argue that the government's reason for rejecting the PHSO's recommendation to compensate women are in breach of legal principles. Explaining the rationale for its decision in December, the government claimed that 90% of Waspi women knew about state pension age changes despite DWP's failures to properly inform them. Not every... So they're claiming 90% of women knew about it, but if they didn't get the money, but the errors and the changes were the fault of the government, not the women. However, the Waspi campaign alleges that the government had misused the survey figures, arguing that they referred to a general awareness of pension changes across the whole population. The campaigners said that only around 200 women born in the 1950s were asked the question from a total sample of 1,950 individuals. We don't agree with their interpretation of those statistics, said Madam. Now, I don't know about that, so I can't comment on that. But if someone can provide me with a link with that for certainty down in the description, please do. The government has accepted that 1950s born women are victims of misadministration, but it says now none of us suffered any injustice. We believe that this is only an outrage but illegally wrong. Now, so she was confident Waspi women could back the legal action as a crowdfunding campaign aimed at raising $75,000 in a month gets underway on Monday. There's a lot of anger. We have listened to our supporters who said, please don't give up, please carry on, so the appetite is there, she said. I think they will fund us, but it's entirely up to them. I would be very surprised if we didn't get $75,000 in the first week. The Waspi women previously crowdfunded $120,000 from thousands of supporters from a successful legal action against the PHSO in 2023. The watchdog had not initially accepted that Waspi women had suffered financial losses, but changed its mind during the judicial review. The Ombudsman went on to recommend compensation between $1,000 and $2,950 last year. Dan said she accepted that even victory at the High Court would not necessarily mean compensation payments for millions of Waspi women. But the campaign is aiming to improve the Labour government's decision was legally unsound in the hopes it will force a U-turn for ministers. The DWP is acting as a perpetrator, judge, jury and censor, said Madden, and that just ignores all the checks and balances Parliament has put in place to protect citizens from mistakes by government departments. The government is understood to be carefully considered the prospects of legal proceedings. A spokesperson for the government said it had accepted the Ombudsman's findings of misadministration and have apologised for there being 28 months delay in writing to the 1950s born women. However, evidence shows that 1 in 4 women remember reading and receiving letters that they were expecting, and that by 2006, 90% of the 1950s born women knew that the state pension age was changing. They added that earlier letters would have affected this. For those and other reasons, the government cannot justify paying a £10.5 billion compensation scheme at the expense of the taxpayer. Now, someone is telling porky pies here, but I don't know for sure if what the government is saying about like this, for me, this doesn't sound right. It just doesn't sound right that, like, this bit here, it just doesn't feel right. Like, was we really aware of this before Labour came to power? Like, were the Conservatives aware of this while they were in power? For me, it just feels like it's been a number thrown out there. I do have questions about the government on that. It does make it sound like that they fiddle with it does. I'm alleging, it is allegations that it does allegedly look like that they fiddle with the numbers to make it look like that they don't need to pay for it. And the honest answer is I just don't know for certain. I'm not going to BS you guys, but if I had to go with my gut feeling, I would say that it's more likely that the Waspi women lost out, rather than the government were right to not compensate. But I think that if it does go to court and they win, this will be a humiliation for Labour. And it would even be more damning because it's not just a humiliation for the government. It's a humiliation for the Labour Party. The same Labour Party that backed the Waspi women. The same Labour Party and its opposition leader, who is now Prime Minister, posing with photos with them. It would be very embarrassing in terms of its image, Labour. And at the moment, as of right now, polling are showing that they're not very popular right now, Labour, despite the fact that they have several years in power to change that. And this will hamper things even further. So I guess the question is it worth justifying paying out the £10.5 billion compensation is what we will need to keep people happy? Well, what do you think? Do you think the Waspi women do have a legal case? Do you think they are fighting a full battle that perhaps they cannot win? What do you guys honestly think about all this? Let me know your thoughts and more down in the comment section below. If you found this video informative or helpful to you, hit that like button, share across social media, and subscribe down below to really help support the channel. If you want to go one step further, do check out the Rumble and Patreon content down below as well, and hit that join button down below to join the YouTube membership for as little as 99p to financially support me and the work that I do. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.